67% of the country disapproves of the way the president's handling race relations. 32% approve. We've got a lot to discuss, and who better to unpack all of this than our first guest? We want to bring in the former UN ambassador to the U.S., Nikki Haley. Also, of course, the former governor of South Carolina and the author of With All Due Respect, Defending America with Grit and Grace. Ambassador Haley, thanks for being here on Spicer and Company. Really appreciate it.
Hey, David, it's great to see you again.
Great to see you. All right. Well, look, you see all these polls on paper. I guess it doesn't look good for the president. But right now, what is your prediction? Do you think Donald Trump is going to win this thing in November?
Well, I think these are unprecedented times. I mean, the idea that we would have a virus take over the world, where literally the world stood still at one moment in time, to have all this racial unrest. I mean, there's a lot going on. And I think that, first of all, I think that the president will do what he does best. I mean, put him on a debate stage, get him out there campaigning, talking about the results that he's done. Yes, I still think that he can come out with a solid win in November. It's not going to be easy, but it really hasn't started to be campaign season yet. Until we get to Labor Day, it's hard to take all of that seriously. Until we have conventions and debates, it's going to be hard to take it seriously. But this is unprecedented waters for any president, for any governor. And I think we've watched them all try and do the best that they can.
Ambassador Haley, this next question is a bit fair game here about mental clarity with Joe Biden. It's out there. He's even had to answer these questions. Have you seen? I mean, he seems like he's not quite on his game like he used to be. What's your assessment of that?
Well, I think, you have to look at his speeches. I think you have to look at his interactions. And there are times where he seems slow or forgetful. That's going to happen with age. But I think that, the true test is going to be when you put him on a debate stage with Donald Trump. I mean, there's no question when you look at who, really comes across, knows the issues, sharp, aggressive. I mean, the president's going to have a really strong showing in the debate. And I think that Joe Biden's got to really step up and show that he's ready for the job. I don't think we've seen that yet because he hasn't really been campaigning. He hasn't been taking on the hard questions from reporters. And so until he does that, everyone's going to question whether he's really ready for the job.
I want to turn to Black Lives Matter. Look, we all agree with the sentiment. Hello, Black Lives Matter, of course. But the Black Lives Matter organization seems to be obviously far different. In essence, their mission statement is that they want to change the nuclear family, the American nuclear family. And of course, in New York, in your adopted home city, if you will, or at least for now, people painted a Black Lives mural right outside of Trump Tower. You know about that. And of course, to no one's surprise, key people like Mayor de Blasio and Al Sharpton showed up. I mean, of course, you can't pass up that visual and political opportunity. They've both been very critical of the way Trump is handling race relations. This week, during a Fox News interview, the president hit back on de Blasio. I want you to have a listen real quick.
I got that man everything. I spoke to him many times. He couldn't have been nicer. And then he throws a big Black Lives Matter sign right down in the middle of Fifth Avenue. And all merchants along Fifth Avenue are furious.
Ambassador, what do you make of the future of New York City right now, and especially your message to Mayor Bill de Blasio?
I mean, the future of New York City is scary right now. I mean, you could go, and de Blasio has been a total embarrassment through this whole thing. The idea that he did the photo op in front of Trump Tower, one, it's petty. Secondly, it's immature. And third, it does nothing to move the ball on Black Lives Matter. You can paint a road. Why don't you get law enforcement to come together and meet with the community, talk with those that are concerned, work on police reform, work on what you're going to do to change things. Painting a road, is that all Bill de Blasio's got left? That's pretty pathetic. And doing it in front of the Trump Tower, I mean, it's just childish. It really is childish, and I'm embarrassed for him. I'm sad for the Black Lives Matter movement that started wanting to really help people, and it's not doing that because now they're starting to pick and choose which Black Lives matter. And I've said this before. What about the Black shop owner whose business was burned down? What about the Black officers that have died? What about the Black children, 6 of them that died this past weekend? Their lives matter. Why is the Black Lives Matter movement picking and choosing? And then now you have the CEO of Goya Foods, who was invited by President Obama and went to the White House, invited by President Trump, went to the White House, yet now suddenly his life doesn't matter? Do
Right.
brown lives not matter? Because that's a Hispanic owned business that employs a lot of people, and you're going to destroy them because he went and met with the president of the United States. It's
Yeah.
gotten too far gone, David. This is getting to where it's not productive, it's embarrassing, and those that really care about a movement would want more about the sitting down and talking about results than anything else. And I've got to say,
Yeah.
when you look at President Trump, they can paint in front of his building, but you tell me about the lives and all of the people that got jobs, the women, the African Americans, the women that got jobs under President Trump's watch.
Yeah.
What about those lives? If you ask them about that painting and that mural in front of Trump Tower, they would tell you that does nothing. What about the tax cuts, where I saw all of my staff
Yeah.
get so much more in their paychecks? It's gotten too far, David, and I think that this is why they're losing credibility.
Well, you mentioned too far. We're in cancel culture land now, Ambassador Haley. It's out of control. The Confederate statues, look, you led in South Carolina on this. You've got something to say. What's the solution to all of this when all of these Confederate statues, talking about those coming down, but now Christopher Columbus and, my goodness, Frederick Douglass, it's out of control. What is your solution? According to Nancy Pelosi, she says people are going to do what people are going to do. It's just, this is where we're at in America today.
When Nancy Pelosi forgives the lawlessness that's happening in this country, it shows that she's been there too long, she's tired, and she continues to show why I strongly believe in term limits. When it comes to this cancel culture, look, it was 5 years ago today that the Confederate flag came down in South Carolina. It was a painful time, it was a tough time, but law enforcement came together, communities came together, the churches came together, everybody came together for the good of South Carolina. And when they wanted to move the monuments, what we said was the flag represents present and future. Monuments represent past. And what I said was, if we start renaming street signs and taking down monuments, all of South Carolina would be completely up for debate. But instead, I said, let's add to it. So we supported an African American museum. We supported a monument going up to honor the Mother Emanuel.
Yeah.
We added to that history. And what I'll tell you is, in this situation in time where you have statues of Grant and Frederick Douglass and Lincoln coming down, what is the Black Lives Movement trying to do? What did that just solve? And when you've got Gandhi being destroyed, really? I mean, in the name of peace, what are we talking about? I mean, this is the niceties and the political correctness that is happening with people that aren't saying anything is wrong. It's wrong for our children. It's wrong for our grandchildren. It's wrong for our future. Get in a room, sit at a table, debate what reforms you want, and let's get it done. Painting roads, destroying statues, and allowing lawlessness is what will bring about the end to America, and we can't let that happen.
Ambassador Haley, I could talk to you all day. I've got about 30 seconds. I've got to ask you about COVID-19 and schools specifically. You've got kids, obviously a bit older now, but schools, there's been this big debate about opening this fall. What say you? Would you, if you had young kids, I mean, would you be sending the kids back to school in the fall?
As a mom who just had a senior in high school who's getting ready to go to college and a senior in college, 2 children, I want them to go to school. I don't want them to miss a year. And I think about the families like those in South Carolina, those parents that have to go to work, those parents. I have after school programs that I help in rural challenged areas. Those kids, they need the meals. They need that academic help. They need to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, let the parents decide. If they are okay with their kids going to school, send them to school. If they want them to learn virtually, do that. But allow those kids to go to school, allow those parents to get back to work to provide for their families, and let the people make those decisions. We don't need government bureaucrats or anybody else making those decisions. Kids need to learn, and we all know the gap that they face when they are not allowed to go to school. We saw that this last year with virtual learning. I saw it as a mom.
Ambassador Haley, could talk to you all day. You know that. I really appreciate it.
know.
Yeah, I know. Listen, we'll have you back another time and we'll talk, oh my goodness, Iran, Israel, China. We'll get to it. But thank you so much for your time today.
It's always fun, and I hope Sean's having a great time on vacation.
Well, we haven't heard from him. No, I'm sure he's doing fine. Thank you so much.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing news channel, now in 65 million homes. Get Newsmax TV on all the major cable systems or go to newsmaxtv.com and click on the Find Newsmax tab to locate us. Remember, Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.